right, so you wanted to learn about Mel Robbins' let them theory, huh? Well, we're diving deep into her book to check out this potentially life-changing idea for you.
And, what's so cool is that Robbins doesn't just kind of throw this concept at you, right? Like, she illustrates it with a story from her own life, a very relatable one, to prom night.
Prom night, okay. Yeah, I'm intrigued. Set the scene for our listener.
Imagine, picture this. It's prom night, right? Raining cats and dogs. And there are absolutely zero dinner reservations to be found anywhere. So there's this group of teenagers all, dressed to the nines, about to head to, tiny little taco joint for their pre-prom meal.
Oh my gosh, I can already feel the parental panic just rising up, just hearing you describe it. Oh no.
And while Mel, she was no different. She was scrambling for reservations, even trying to, order pizza, basically doing absolutely everything she could to try to fix the situation.
Mm-hmm.
But then she has this aha moment, where she realizes she's the only one stressed out.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's trying to control a situation that is just totally outside of her control.
Wow, okay. And so her son and his friends are
totally unfazed. They're just going with the flow, They're adapting to the chaos and having a blast despite the rain and the lack of fancy dinner plans. So this whole experience ends up becoming the foundation for her let them theory. It's this idea that, other people's opinions, their actions, even their reactions to us, is all fundamentally outside of our control, right? So instead of wasting energy trying to manage everyone and everything, you kind of just let them do their thing.
So let them is all about acceptance then.
Yeah, totally. And that's only half of the equation, right? The other half is let me, which focuses on what you can control, right? Your responses, your choices, and ultimately your personal growth.
Okay, so we let them be them, but how do we let me be me? That's where I'm a little fuzzy.
So think of it kind of like a seesaw, right? You're on one end desperately trying to control someone on the other end. They're up high, you're down low, and you feel totally powerless. Let them. It's kind of pushing off the ground with your feet. So as you let go of that need to control, your side of the seesaw starts to rise, and their hold over you, it weakens.
Wow, that's a great visual. I like that.
Yeah.
So let them isn't about being passive or letting people just walk all over you. It's about consciously choosing where you direct your energy, right?
You got it. And what's so cool about this theory is that it applies to so many areas of life.
So how would someone listening apply this let them approach to a real life scenario?
Well, let's say you find out a bunch of your friends are going on a weekend trip and they didn't invite you. It stings, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's easy to fall into that trap of overthinking, questioning your worth,
We've all been there for sure.
Totally. So instead of spiraling, right, this is where you use let them have their fun. Their decision to go on this trip without you, it doesn't define you. And it doesn't affect your value as a friend.
Okay, but how do we actually deal with those feelings of being left out? That's the tough part,
And that's where let me comes in. Instead of just dwelling on their choice, this is your chance to turn inward and ask yourself, why does this bother me so much? What deeper need or insecurity is this triggering in me? And, most importantly, what can I do to, be more proactive in creating the social life that I want?
So it's about using that experience as a catalyst for self-awareness and growth instead of just letting it drag you down.
Exactly. It's about shifting your focus from trying to control those external circumstances to understanding and, empowering yourself. Now think about those everyday annoyances. We all encounter them, right? So imagine you're stuck in a long grocery checkout line. Instead of, getting frustrated, you could let them work at their own pace and then let me choose to not let this tiny little inconvenience ruin my whole day.
So it's recognizing that, you can't control the situation, but you can absolutely control your reaction to it.
Totally. Or picture being on a plane with someone who just won't stop coughing. Right. You can't control their cough, but you can let them cough and then take steps to protect yourself. Maybe you put on your headphones, use some hand sanitizer. It's about taking responsibility for your well-being instead of just getting resentful.
Okay, that makes sense. So let them helps us navigate those everyday situations. But what about bigger issues dealing with a difficult boss, for example?
Okay, so let's say you're stuck with a boss who's totally unfair and keeps promising you a promotion but never actually gives it to you.
Yeah.
Right? It's so tempting to get caught up in complaining and feeling resentful.
Oh, I think anyone who's ever had a bad boss can relate to that feeling for sure.
Totally. So in this situation, right, you can like let them string you along while you let me realize that like you are ultimately in charge of your career. So you could spend your weekends, updating your resume, networking, and seeking out those opportunities that actually like align with your goals.
So it's like taking back your agency and like recognizing that you do have the power to create, the career that you actually want.
Now, there are times when like just let them along isn't enough. Robbins actually gives the example of, encountering a dog owner who doesn't pick up after their pet. It's annoying, right?
Yeah.
But like, will it continue to bother you, long term? If so, then maybe let me speak up politely or report the issue, It's about recognizing like when action is actually necessary.
So it's like a balance, right, between knowing when to let things go and then when to like take action.
Right. And to like help you figure out, when to do which, it helps to consider someone's frame of reference.
Okay. So what exactly is frame of reference and how does that like tie into let them?
Think of it as like understanding where someone's opinion or behavior is coming from, even if you don't agree with it. Robbins, she shares a story about her mom initially like disapproving of her husband, Chris.
Yeah.
And for years, she saw this as just a lack of support, right?
Right.
But over time, she came to understand her mom's frame of reference.
Mm-hmm.
Like her mom was just scared of losing her daughter to another part of the country. It wasn't about judging Chris. It was about her fear of like losing her daughter.
Oh, so understanding her mom's frame of reference allowed her to like let her have that opinion without like taking it personally.
Exactly. And it doesn't mean that like anyone is right or wrong. It's about, cultivating empathy and like seeing the situation through their lens, which can make it easier to let them have their opinions or reactions, even if they're, totally different from yours.
That makes a lot of sense. So like sometimes let them is about understanding where someone else is coming from and other times it's about like overcoming our own fear of judgment.
Right. Robbins, she admits she delayed the launch of her business for 2 whole years because she was like afraid of what her friends and family would think. And ironically, that fear actually hurt her success.
So in that situation, let them would have like looked like what?
It would have looked like launching her business anyway, despite her fear.
Yeah.
Giving people the freedom to like judge and, paradoxically freeing herself to actually pursue her goals without like constantly worrying about external validation. It's often our fear of judgment that like holds us back from actually pursuing the things that we, truly desire.
Wow. I think, this is a perfect place to like pause for now. I'm already like starting to see how this let them theory can be applied to like so many different areas of life.
And we've only just scratched the surface. There's so much more to like explore.
Okay, so we're back and we're like ready to dive even deeper into this let them theory. One area that really like stood out to me in the book was like Robin's take on, family dynamics. She talks about how those relationships can be some of the most like challenging ones to navigate.
Oh, for sure, because family relationships, they come with like a lot of baggage, right?
Yeah.
Years of history, deeply ingrained expectations, and sometimes even like unresolved conflicts. All of that can make it really tough to, just let them be them.
Yeah.
Especially when their choices or like behaviors clash with your own.
Oh, absolutely. Like sometimes it can feel almost impossible, especially when it comes to, like the people that we're closest to.
And Robbins, she points out that like blended families, they face like a unique set of challenges. There's often, like grief and resentment that stepchildren need to like work through, and it's not realistic to expect like instant love and connection.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So in those situations, like let them means like allowing space for those, difficult emotions and understanding that it takes time to like build trust and form new bonds.
Okay, so like as the adult in that situation, what's the like best approach?
Focus on being like the mature and compassionate presence, create a safe space for everyone to like adjust at their own pace. And remember, you can't force affection or like try to control their feelings. It's about showing up with patience and, understanding.
I think a lot of us can relate to that, like feeling of wanting to like fix things for our loved ones, especially when we see them, struggling. Robbins actually talks about how that like impulse to rescue can actually backfire.
Yeah. She makes this like really powerful point that you can't want someone's like sobriety, healing, or happiness more than they want it for themselves. Like trying to rescue them might, feel like you're helping, but it could actually enable them to like avoid facing their challenges.
It's like that saying, like, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. Right.
Exactly. Trying to like force change on someone who isn't ready only leads to like frustration and resentment on both sides. Robbins, she suggests that sometimes the most supportive thing you can do is actually let them experience the, natural consequences of their choices.
That's interesting.
Doesn't mean that you like abandon them.
Yeah.
But it does mean like setting healthy boundaries and allowing them to like learn from their mistakes.
So it's about fostering like responsibility rather than just like swooping in to save the day.
Right. And Robbins, she uses the example of her husband, Chris, who like faced a financial crisis early in his career.
Mm-hmm.
His brother recognized the importance of, letting Chris learn from his mistakes and refused to bail him out.
Oh.
It was a tough love approach. But it turned out to be like a turning point for Chris.
Oh.
Having to, face the consequences of his actions forced him to take ownership of the situation and, like create a plan to get back on track.
Yeah. Sometimes those like tough lessons are the ones that like stick with us the most, right?
Totally. And it's not about being like cold or uncaring. It's about, believing in their capacity to like figure things out. You can like offer emotional support and practical help, but ultimately it's about like empowering them to take responsibility for their own lives.
So how do we actually like walk that line between, supporting someone and enabling them?
Robbins, she highlights the power of like modeling the behavior that you want to see in others. So she shares a story about her in-laws and how they like quietly and consistently just like showed up for her when she was struggling with postpartum depression.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't like ask how to help. They just offered practical support, like bringing over meals and helping with childcare.
Yeah. Those are the kinds of like gestures that really make a difference.
For sure. And sometimes it's as simple as just like expressing your belief in them, even when they're, doubting themselves. A sincere, I believe in you, you got this, can go a long way.
So it sounds like a lot of this comes down to like shifting our focus from, trying to fix people to just like being there for them, letting them know that they're not alone.
Totally. And what's so interesting is that Robbins, she offers like a concrete strategy for, influencing behavior without resorting to like pressure or control. She calls it like the ABC loop.
Okay, so break down this like ABC loop for us. How does it work?
Okay, so it starts with A, apologize for any like past pressure or judgment that you've, placed on them. And then like ASK, open-ended questions about like their feelings and perspectives. It's about shifting from like telling them what to do to genuinely understanding where they're coming from.
So step one is like approach the situation with like humility and curiosity.
Exactly. Then comes B, back off. Give them space to like process. Observe their behavior for like signs of genuine change and like resist the urge to jump in and like control the situation. This is where like patience is key.
Oh, I know. It can be so hard to like resist that urge to jump in and fix things, especially when we, care about someone.
Yeah, it is. But sometimes the most like loving thing you can do is actually just give them the space they need to like find their own way. And then finally, C is to celebrate, acknowledge and like appreciate any progress they make, no matter how small.
It's about like reinforcing those, positive changes, right?
Yeah.
Showing them that like their efforts are being recognized and appreciated.
Exactly. And then you continue to like model the desired behavior yourself,
Right.
Demonstrating what's possible without like forcing it on them. It's subtle, but it's a really powerful way to like influence change.
Okay, so we've talked about like applying let them to, those everyday annoyances, challenging work situations, even those like complex family dynamics. But what about like love and relationships? How does let them fit in there?
Well, Robbins, she starts by like reminding us that we all deserve an amazing love story, right? And we should never like settle for less. And she's not talking about finding like the perfect person. She's talking about like choosing love that, aligns with your values, your goals, and like your vision for a, fulfilling life.
Yeah, I think like a lot of us get caught up in that like quest for the perfect partner and forget to like ask ourselves what we truly, want and need in a relationship.
Totally. And that's where like let them comes in. Robbins, she encourages you to like be your authentic self while dating,
Yeah.
to like stop chasing validation and just let them not be interested if that's the case. It's about like clarity over confusion. If they like you, you'll know, right?
Yeah.
And if they don't, you'll be left like wondering and like wasting precious time and energy.
So it's about like trusting your gut, seeing the truth in, their actions,
Right.
and not letting your like desire for a relationship like cloud your judgment.
Exactly. Don't waste time trying to like decipher mixed signals or like convince someone to be with you if their actions don't like match their words, let them walk away. You deserve someone who is like enthusiastic about being with you.
That's such an important like reminder.
It is. So, once you're in a relationship, how does let them help you like navigate those inevitable, challenges and differences that like always arise?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Robbins, she highlights a statistic from like relationship researchers John and Julie Gottman. It really like put things into perspective. 69% of relationship problems are unsolvable.
Whoa, 69%. That's a pretty like significant number. So basically like 2/3 of the issues that couples fight about are just like inherent incompatibilities.
Yeah, that's what the research like suggests. And it highlights, the importance of like compatibility alongside commitment. Robbins, she gives the example of like a couple facing a major life decision. One partner wants to move to London, the other wants to, stay near family in the US. It's a tough situation with no easy answers.
Oh, for sure. There's no like right or wrong answer in that scenario, is there?
It comes down to, each individual asking themselves some like tough questions, right? Like, will I regret breaking up more than, moving to London? Or like, will I resent my partner if I choose to like leave my family and friends behind? Ultimately, like the partner who wants to move to London probably isn't going to change their mind. So it becomes a matter of like the other partner deciding what they're willing to, let them do and what they're willing to like sacrifice.
That's like heavy stuff.
Yeah, it is. But it like emphasizes the importance of, honest self-reflection and like recognizing when a compromise would ultimately lead to like resentment. Sometimes let them means like letting go of a relationship, even when it's like incredibly painful.
And when, heartbreak hits, what's the best way to like navigate those, raw emotions?
Robbins, she actually says that, the common advice to like love yourself, it's actually terrible advice when you're like heartbroken because like in those moments you often hate yourself.
Right.
So a more like authentic approach is to let me feel the pain, grieve authentically, and not try to like rush the healing process.
So it's about like allowing yourself to, experience the full spectrum of emotions without like judgment.
Exactly. She recommends like no contact for 30 days, filling your calendar with, activities that bring you joy, maybe pursuing a challenge, and, like leaning on your support system. It's about giving yourself the time and space you need to like heal and rediscover your strength.
It's about taking that let them energy and like turning it inward, right? Let me process my emotions. Let me rebuild my life. Let me rediscover who I am outside of this, relationship.
That's a great way to put it. Even in heartbreak, you have agency, you have choices, and you can, emerge stronger on the other side.
It's like amazing how this let them theory can apply to so many different areas of life, from those like little everyday annoyances to those like big life-changing decisions. I think what I'm taking away from this is that it's all about like shifting our focus, from trying to like control those things that are like totally outside of our control to like actually taking ownership of our own thoughts and feelings and actions.
Yeah, that's like the essence of it. Robbins calls it like stepping into your let me era.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah. It's about like reclaiming your power, your choices, your energy. It's about like designing a life that truly reflects, your values, your passions, and like your unique definition of happiness.
I love that. The let me era, it's got like a nice ring to it. But getting there often means like letting go of certain things, like relationships, expectations, maybe even like some limiting beliefs that have been like holding us back.
Letting go can be like really hard, but it also like creates space for new possibilities, new connections, even new dreams to like emerge. It's like, clearing out the clutter to make room for the things that truly matter.
One thing that really like resonated with me in the book was like Robin's emphasis on self-belief. She talks about how that like inner confidence can like unlock so much potential.
And she's not talking about some like magical positive thinking trick, It's about recognizing your inherent worth, trusting your instincts, and like taking action even when you're afraid. It's about like showing up for yourself the same way you would show up for someone you really love.
That's such a like good point. We often extend so much like grace and compassion to others, but like totally forget to like give ourselves that same level of, kindness and understanding.
Yeah, self-compassion is key. It's about like silencing that inner critic, challenging those negative thoughts, and celebrating your wins, both big and small. It's about like treating yourself with the same care and respect that you would offer to like a dear friend.
So for our listener, who's ready to embrace this let them wisdom, what's one practical step they can take this week to start, putting it into practice?
Hmm. I'd suggest identifying one relationship or situation that's causing you, you know, unnecessary stress. Maybe it's a friend who's constantly draining your energy, or a work situation that feels out of alignment with your values, or even just that voice in your head that's filled with self-doubt.
Mhm.
Once you've, identified that source of stress, ask yourself, what would it look like to just let them be?
So just let go of that need to control or, fix the situation.
Exactly. What would it feel like to release that burden? And then, shift your focus to what you can control, your responses, your choices, your growth. How can you empower yourself in this situation? What steps can you take to, create more peace and joy in your life?
So it's about asking yourself, what will I choose to let go of to make space for what truly matters?
That's such a powerful question. And it's one we can all benefit from asking ourselves regularly. Life is full of choices, and sometimes the most empowering choice we can make is to simply let go.
Letting go of what no longer serves us, letting go of the need to control, letting go of the stories we tell ourselves. It's all part of, stepping into that let me era and creating a life that truly aligns with who we are.
Well said. It's been a pleasure, diving deep into this topic with you.
And to our listener, thank you so much for joining us on this journey into the let them theory. We really hope you've gained some, valuable insights and feel empowered to apply this wisdom to your own life. And remember, you have the power to choose peace, joy, and freedom. It all starts with letting go of